All right, 1, 2, 3, we are live. Okay, this video is one that I wanted somebody else to have made before I actually purchased this camera, which is the one I have on the left right here. This one is my phone using the front camera, and I actually bought this camera to film outdoor stuff. Like I've been doing sailing and stuff, but I wanted to also see if I could justify it by making it sort of like an indoor camera, maybe, or a secondary indoor camera. I didn't want to spend 500 to $1,000 just to get like another, like a CVE 10 or something like that. Before you get your hopes extremely high, let me tell you, we will have to go through a little bit of a process to make this look good enough. And it's not going to be probably comparable to using your own phone if you have a high-end phone. Right now on this phone right here is S24 Plus, and you will decide if you can justify just using your 360 or Insta360 X5 as well, just for the indoor camera. Now, before we completely start this video, let me just mention that I've made the SUALVI desk mat available on the SUALVI website. So if you have seen the SUALVI desk mat and you're interested, go check it out. It's on the SUALVI website live, and you can also get it for free plus free shipping worldwide if you end up getting the new all bundle pack, which puts all the toolkits and tools that are built for DaVinci Resolve that are paid into one pack. Make sure to check that out as well after you watch this video completely. So for the Insta360 camera, let me tell you the settings. I'm using the pure video mode, which is better for low light situations, and I'm using it at 5.7K resolution. So we have that. Now the settings for everything else are pretty much in auto. I set the automatic exposure to I left that at 0. Now the white balance is set to automatic. And then the other thing that I left in the default mode is the actual, I think it's called picture profile, which has the standard, vivid, and then flat. I left it in standard as well because I recorded these a bunch of times already, and I tried different settings. I tried log, but it was a little bit too soft for my liking. But that was actually when I was really zooming into the face, which nobody's going to do. And if you're watching these on a phone, it's probably not going to be that noticeable. Maybe I just really, really wanted it to be better than it really was. But yeah, so those are the settings from the camera shooting on Insta360. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but you do need a ton of lights. Right now I have 1, 2, and 3 little lights just so that I can cover enough light and just give the sensor enough light so that it captures an image that doesn't have that much noise and that is a little bit clear. Now, another setting that on the camera you want to have is make sure your bitrate is set to high, and also your sharpness. You could leave it a low, but I tested that inside and that didn't work quite well. So I left these at standard for this particular video that you're seeing and that we're going to use for this video. I will be using the Insta360 Studio app on my computer to then reframe these and make these a more flattened image, so we don't have that distortion that we can see if we have like the super wide angle lens, because that's what this is for, to cover all. So it basically stretches everything, or it covers a lot of area comparing to a phone, which is just a flat image. All right, so here we are in this Insta360 camera in Insta360 Studio. The first thing we're going to do is you can just create a normal keyframe anywhere and then just set this to linear or just dewarp these. You can set this to linear and then just move these a little bit closer. We can go to media resolution or media processing, and then here you can do any adjustments already. But if you plan to do these in DaVinci Resolve later on, you say turn these off, and then that's pretty much it. Now motion ND is I think it has to be to like when you're moving around or doing sports. So if you're just recording inside and have a still scene or a still shot, then you don't have to worry too much about this, right? So we're gonna just export these already. So to export, we're gonna go up here at export. Okay, so here in the export section, you can use a couple of things already. I'm gonna set the bitrate to 200. I'm gonna set the resolution to actually be 3640. Is that it? No, 3840. That's basically 4K. So this up to 200 bitrate. And we're going to set this to ProRes. It's going to be a pretty big file. Holy moly. It is a pretty big file, right? But for the sake of the video, we'll have to just use that. Here you can rename this if you want. All right, so we're going to export that in 4K, and then we're going to jump to DaVinci Resolve. All right. So we are here and we have both clips. Now, the first thing we're going to do, since we have this ProRes clip, is we're going to actually turn or create a proxy media for it. Now, for the proxy media settings, you want to set this up to be whatever format you're most used to working. In this case, I actually ended up trying to see what the best one was. And I decided to just use H265 because I saw a blog and it was showing all the pros. And I said, well, let's just try that, right? Why not? Since we are in an experiment right here. So we're trying that out. All right, now we can then go to playback and then make sure they have the preferred proxies if you want to do that. That will help a little bit with performance. Now, also you want to take into account that if you are on a 4K timeline, if you're lagging a bit, just turn it to 1920 or simply go to or just go to timeline playback resolution and then set it up to half or quarter or whatever works best for you. Okay, now let's take a look at the actual clips. This one is from the Insta360, and you can see that from far away it looks workable, I would say, in my opinion. I'm not trying to be a purist or something like that to be like, oh no, it has to be perfect. Just telling you. Now, if I put these to be covering the whole screen, then we can see that there's a lot of really less details and there's a lot more noise, right? You can see it everywhere. Now, if I press the phone camera, we can see a lot more details, but it does have a bit of noise as well. This is the phone camera. Now, the size difference in both sensors is actually interesting because I was looking up, I was asking my phone what was the size or what were the sizes of both of these cameras. So we have the, let me see once again, just so that I don't forget. So the Insta360, this one has a dual 1/1.28 sensor. So basically on each camera has that. So it has dual because it has two cameras. I think that's, so if you're just using one like lens, just use that 1/1.28, which is actually bigger than the front camera sensor that the S24 Plus has. Or according to the AI that I asked, right? Because sometimes they say that AI can't really do math properly. But the S24 Plus has a 1/3.2 sensor. So basically 1 divided by 3.2. I'm not entirely sure how all the sensors math works, but the difference is that I think Samsung has a lot more AI features implemented into the devices. So when you're seeing on the camera, it has a lot more like enhancements made, right? So that's maybe why. And actually, it probably would have been smarter for me to actually just use the wide lens, right, on the S24 Plus front camera, so that we had a little bit more of like a properly or closely related scene right here. So something like these maybe would have been almost like twice the size of like the crop into the other one. But that's enough of like math and all that stuff. Just letting you know that's the difference. But I think the phones have a little bit more enhancement on the cameras. That's why we are able to see a lot more details right from the get-go. So now we can go into the color page, and you can see that I already have a few notes here, but we can just do these a couple of times. On the number 3, we're going to add a space transform, and we're just going to set this up to be Rec 709 because that's what I figure the standard is when you're not using the log profile or the, what do you call it, the flat profile either. So basically there's a minor difference. I think only the gamma is affecting things a little bit, but input rec 709, output rec 709. All right, so in number 1, now I'm not a pro colorist at all. And I do one method for a little bit and then I just decide to change it. But right now I'm doing these. So first of all, I'm going to use the white balance and I'm going to set these automatically to see what it does. All right, we have that. We have a little bit of saturation right here. We can actually just decrease the contrast a little bit if you want, and also the saturation. Now, you can adjust a lot more things right here, but we're just going to do that for now. Now on these, actually, I'm going to close that so we have a little bit more space on the screen for these. On this one, we're going to go to the curves and we're going to use editable splines. I'm going to set these up to be a little bit like these, like that, and bring a little bit of the highlights down, increase the curve like that. And I'm going to go and increase the low softness a little bit, but not too much because otherwise you lose all your blacks. But I guess this will be a sort of like a creative choice. So far we have these. We added a little bit more contrast in volume, not volume, but you get what I'm saying. It just feels a little bit better. But we might want to decrease the saturation. No, I'm just going to leave the saturation as is right now. We're going to adjust the skin tone. We're going to adjust the skin tone. Well, I can speak. We're going to adjust the skin color by itself just right now. So I'm going to go and select these with the picker. Press Shift H so we only see the skin color. And we can see it's almost over the skin line mark, but we can move these around. Now, I've noticed that sometimes we have this difference between the skin right here. You see, this one grabs a lot more, but we can also adjust the center to see what exactly is actually grabbing. Now, I'm not entirely sure if we do that, since we have the color picker set up, it will still only change what we had the color picker right here in. But you can play around to see and adjust these however you want, or we can use the color picker method, which is using the curves. Now going to the hue versus hue, we're going to select this section right here that has the most red, I would guess, or the skin. And then we can move these around, put this right on top of the line. Now we're going to go to hue versus saturation. Press that again where there's a little bit more red right here, and then we can use that to increase or decrease the saturation of our skin. So I think that's good. Now, this is just for a normal talking head video on YouTube, so we don't have to have it too much. Now, if I were to try, I could probably try to not have the light that I have set up right here. I do have a light right here. That's a backlight, basically pointing from an angle right here towards my back. That's why we don't have that much shadow on this side of my face right in this clip. Now, is that a must? Well, it was just like whatever. I just put it up there. Didn't really think too much of it. Because if I were to leave that dark, maybe we would have gotten a lot more noise in there. Now, talking about noise, we can press Shift S in here and add a noise reduction to these. And then set it up to be like 20-ish. There are some people that know exactly how to properly see the noise levels. Where is this? Not there. Let's see. I've seen a video in the past where somebody was using the color like histogram or vectors, not the vector scope, but it was a waveform or a histogram, and they were using that to adjust the color or the threshold right here for some reason, but I'm not able to see any changes and I'm not able to read it like that then. So I'm going to set this up to be like 16. And what I do sometimes is that the spatial threshold, just unlink these and increase or the chroma to like between up to 9, I guess. It will take a little bit of the noise. Now, nobody's going to be zooming into my face in the video, so it's not that big of a deal. All right, now on this last node, we have I could actually rename these, but it's just too much work to do that right now. And it's Friday night and it's late and I'm a little bit tired. So in this last one, we can actually sharpen our clip a little bit more. So we have to find the sharpness and set it up to be 9. Just kidding. I'm gonna set these to be like 0.40. The recommended amount is that you don't go below 0.47. And if you go above 0.5, you're actually gonna soften the whole thing. So you might want you play around and leave these like around the area that you like or around the marker that you like. Okay, so that's the first thing. We have that first, and then that second. It looks a little bit good, right? It looks decent and it works. We can actually make these a little bit more contrasty with the shadows by doing that. Playing around with the curve and extending it a little bit just to get to a point that you like. All right, now we have that, and we need a little bit of an extra touch, which is a video that I shared not long ago. But YouTube stops recommending it. So I don't know what I can do. I'm going to have to probably make some shorts and then link to that video so that more people can see it, because it's a great tip. So we're going to press Alt S and do the same twice. So we have this one and this one. This is going to be our depth map, and this is going to be our blur node. We're going to connect these to be our mask, and we're going to do this. And we're going to have this one right here. All right, now on this depth map, we're going to add a depth map effect. Press Shift H. And there it goes. We're not seeing anything right now. Here, we need to see the depth map, and we can actually adjust the map levels right here. If you increase it far limit, then everything that's further away from you is going to become darker. And then you have to decrease your near limit so that your subject or yourself is mostly covered by it. Basically, that is a good amount, I think. And if you don't move too much, then there's not going to be that big of a, like a, what do you call this? Because sometimes if it is a little bit too close to each other, or there's not that big of a difference, we get this little like flickering almost, right? So you have to play around with these. You can also isolate these and just overall like adjust this as much as you want and as much as you can. And then at the last point, you can actually even do these post-processing, and it tries to do it so that the edges are a little bit more natural and not super sharp. But as I mentioned, on this depth map, you can spend a ton of time playing around with it and then end up not liking your result either way. Now, if you get these issues right here of something that shows up like that, what you can do is we're going to use the pen tool, and we're going to draw these right here. And I'm going to activate these and then activate that too. Well, not that. There it goes. Now that means that that's going to be black. So the depth map is now going to affect. Oh, so everything that's white is what's not going to be affected by our blur, right? What is going to be affected by our blur? So let me just add a lens blur in this case, is the white portion. So we can actually invert these first. And now if I press Shift H, so we get rid of that preview window, we can have that blur effect so that we have a little bit of sort of like a bokeh effect on our clip right here. So far, this is what I thought could work to make these a better indoor camera. If you press Shift D, you deactivate or bypass these, and then that's how it looks straight out of the camera. And if you press Shift D, you can make this look really, really decent, except if someone wants to make it full screen on a 4K, like 72-inch screen, right? And then zoom into your face. That's probably not going to be ideal in that case. But most of the time, if you're just going to do these, and then you're going to have yourself maybe even just small on the side, maybe you just not do this depth map part, because this part makes the render process a lot slower, right? So that's just the creative choice of what you can do. Now, the cool thing here is that when you have this depth map right here, you can actually even make the background just darker overall as well. Sometimes, because sometimes it doesn't want to do what you want to do. I don't know what's going on. All right. So I thought it was on this one, but I guess if we go into this one where we have the mask active, we can actually make the background a little bit darker by using the curves. And that sells the effect a little bit even better, I would think, because it's separating you from the background a little bit more, and it just makes it look cleaner overall, I think. That is basically what you can do. Now, let's try and see what it will look like if we just did the same thing or just copy and pasted these to the other clip that we have right here. So we're going to go to clips, go this one, where is the phone, press Alt-V, and we're going to also maybe have to adjust this mask a little bit, maybe not that much. But we're going to have to adjust the sharpness of these, maybe not. Now the skin color, let's take a look, looks good, but I think it's a little bit oversaturated, maybe a little bit. We can play around with the curves to fix that. But this is a phone clip, and then we can actually, let's adjust the curves right here so we can see these have a lot more dark, but not so much. Oh, look at that. Right now, that mask that we had is actually not doing its job properly. So if this is not doing the job properly right here, that means it's not doing that here either. Yeah, it's not working how the way it should right here. Yeah, sometimes masks are weird like that in this case. So we can just get rid of that mask for now. Just hope it works better in this case. So yeah, this is how it looks if we were to add that same node tree effect. And maybe this one is a lot sharper, I would say, in the skin and details, right? But it could be also because it's just a lot closer to the, like, the sensor is a lot more cropped in, right? Like that. But both of them work. So in this video, you basically learn how to make any type of non super professional camera look good enough to work as your studio camera or your like content setup camera if you don't have a ton of money to just buy a proper camera, or you just cannot justify that. Now, one thing to mention is that for the depth map, you will have these little artifacts right here. And that's what I mentioned, that you have to play around with the adjustment right here so that you don't see these weird blurriness that happen sometimes. And the only way to really properly solve that is by actually playing around with the sliders right here until you get to a point that you like. But as I said, if you were just going to have these as a small section of your video, or this was just going to be you speaking, but really on a small window or reaction or something like that, then maybe you don't have to go through all of these process for that. But either way, I wanted to make this video because I think it's a video that I wish I could have had before I purchased this camera, just so that I knew better and I had a better decision making vote, I guess, with myself to like, because I ended up saying like, okay, let me just freaking get it, because I would have just delayed it and delayed it. I was gonna get the X4 last year, but then I said, nah, not worth it. And nobody had made a video to see how it would work as an indoor camera either way. So yeah, but the main thing here is that you need a ton of light. So if you have good lights, or if you just record against a window with a lot of light coming from outside, that might be even better than just artificial lights. So that is basically the extent of what we can drag this camera into to make these work as an indoor camera or as a studio camera. If you are in the context or situation where you want to justify having this camera and also using it indoors, right? Maybe you want to have like declare this as a business expense or something like that as well. So you have to use it in your business, let's say. But yeah, that's the video. I hope it is helpful because I wanted somebody else to have made this video before I purchased the camera, but nobody was doing it. And maybe there's a lot of people that have these questions, right? So as final thoughts, you can decide the end result and see if you like how it looks, and then you can make your own decision. I think I've applied for an affiliate to get for DJI. I don't think they ever responded, but I didn't want to wait longer on this video. So if this video makes you get a DJI camera, then just email them and tell them to send me a commission, right? But the intention for this video is not to get you to buy any camera or anything, just to like let you know what I'm doing and try experimenting to see if it is worth it and if it works, right? And this is gonna be something, as I mentioned, right? This intention or the intended use for this camera is not these, but we can make things work, sort of. You make your own decision, and if you end up getting it, then just try to follow this workflow. And yeah, hopefully this video is helpful. Let me know if it is helpful, and if it's not, well, maybe the target market was not you, but you at least learned something new that's useful that maybe in the future can be as well for you if you ever decide to get a camera like these Insta360 X5 camera. All right, bye.